Lucille started healing the adventurers. However, it was obvious that he was nervous, as his hand was shaking while reciting the spell. Because of his nervousness, he couldn't picture the spell properly, so he failed to cast it, also wasting his MP. Lucille didn't waste any time and tried casting the spell again. He was more focused this time. He imagined a wound being reversed while reciting the spell. He was successful this time, and the adventurer's wound healed completely. He did it over and over until there was only one adventurer left. However, he was extremely exhausted after using every last bit of his MP, and although he was determined to heal the last adventurer, he couldn't stop himself from losing consciousness. Inside the guild, Lucille was disappointed at himself for not being able to save the remaining adventurer. Although Bazin thanked him for doing everything to save the adventurer, it couldn't prevent him from feeling disappointed in himself, but it made him determined to level up while building experience in the Adventurers Guild. Lucille was amazed after seeing the interior of the Adventurer Guild, but while looking around, he got intimidated when he noticed some people glaring at him. So he went directly to the counter to register himself as an adventurer. He was excited after seeing the receptionist's bunny ears. The receptionist told him to fill out the form and channel his magic or blood into the card. Seeing this, Lucille reminded himself not to get distracted before filling out the form. The receptionist checked the form and confirmed that he could be an adventurer since he has martial arts skills, so Lucille realized that he couldn't register without it. The receptionist started explaining his contract. She told Lucille that adventurers receive 50 copper coins for completing a quest, but 5 coins will be deducted to cover operating expenses. Hearing this, Lucille asked what would happen if he failed the quest instead. The receptionist explained that there would be a penalty and other fees, so Lucille realized that he couldn't mess up. Then the receptionist also added that he would start at rank H. Lucille asked if the guild received quests for healing. Then he turned on his business mode and explained that his job is a healer before offering his service to heal the adventurers who get injured while training in exchange for having someone train him to improve martial arts skills. The receptionist started thinking about his offer, but she asked Lucille to wait while she looked for guild higher-ups to make the decision. After negotiating, Lucille thought that he could only rely on his monster luck to get the deal. The receptionist returned quickly, and Lucille was intimidated after seeing the tough-looking guy beside her, but he thought that he would suffer a setback if he judged the other person by appearance. Lucille introduced himself before explaining that he wanted to train his martial arts and healing skills, so he wanted to offer his healing services in exchange for receiving martial arts training. The man thought Lucille was weird for a healer because he didn't want to keep his money, and instead wanted to learn martial arts and how to fight. Lucille explained that he was worthless in combat, and that even a weak monster could kill him while he was on his journey, so in order to prevent that, he wanted to train and get strong enough to at least protect himself. The man thought about Lucille's offer, then agreed, saying that Lucille would be the training hall recovery specialist with a silver coin salary per day, although his training fees would be deducted from it. And they agreed that he would start in 6 days. Then the guy asked the receptionist to make the arrangements, and she also introduced herself as Nana Ella. Lucille also happily introduced himself, but he noticed everyone's glare and killing intent directed at him. However, the man beside Nana Ella signaled for them to leave. Lucille noticed this, so he was certain that the man had a high status. Afterwards, the man introduced himself as Broad, and he is the chief instructor of the guild. He then told Lucille that he would be waiting for him in 6 days. After thanking Broad, Lucille returned to his room, and he immediately thought of improving his magic, as he thought that the guild would lose faith in him if he couldn't keep up. At the same time, Monica entered his room to bring his meal. She also asked if his outing was productive, which Lucille immediately affirmed before saying that he now knew where he could train. Monica congratulated him, but he told her that he would still need to improve his skills and preparation. Then he also asked Monica what level his holy magic affinity should be. Monica explained that if someone reaches level 5 before turning 20 years old, that's considered quite talented. Then Lucille thought that he would need to gain 5 levels in 5 years, and he wondered if it would be possible. However, Monica told him to take her on a date if he managed to reach level 5 by the age of 20. Lucille almost choked after hearing this, but he was burning with determination. For a whole week, Lucille tried to improve his magic as much as he could. Afterwards, Lucille visited Kururu to thank her and everyone else for helping him be a healer. Kururu was impressed with him, thinking that he had great potential and would be a wonderful healer. And she's also glad that Lucille already had a job waiting for him. Then she reminded Lucille to thank Lumina before he left. Lucille went to the Adventurers Guild right away. While making his way to the reception desk, he noticed everyone staring at him. The receptionist happily greeted him while asking if he was there to file a report. Lucille was surprised by her cuteness, and he thought that every girl he had met in this world was pretty. Lucille introduced himself before saying that he had asked Broad to train him. After hearing this, the receptionist pointed out where the underground training hall was. Lucille nervously descended the stairs, and he was surprised after seeing the hall's huge size. Broad showed up while releasing his killing intent, and he was happy that Lucille didn't sneak away. He also added that they would have the hall all to themselves. Lucille was surprised that he would be training alone, but he thanked Broad for this. Broad was impressed that Lucille didn't run away after seeing his killer look. Although he was worried, Lucille asked Broad to train him as hard as he could in order to acquire the skills he needed to survive. Broad told him to show his determination through his actions before declaring that he wouldn't go easy on Lucille, and also warning him against escaping. Broad asked Lucille to run around inside the hall, so he realized that Broad is like those intense bosses who only believe in hustle. At the same time, Broad reminded him to keep going even after running out of energy, adding that stopping means death. Although he thought it was hard, Lucille started enjoying it. When he thought that before he died he couldn't move even when he wanted, he felt that this training was like heaven. However, he lost consciousness afterwards and Broad couldn't believe he passed out just from that. Lucille's scream echoed throughout the guild, even waking up Nana Ella. Lucille was screaming from pain after Broad sat on his back to stretch his body. Broad explained that Lucille will definitely suffer from injuries if he doesn't stretch to improve his range of motion and attack. He also added that it would give him greater flexibility when dodging enemy attacks. While complaining about the pain, Lucille realized that his training is a lot more practical, contrary to his expected cerebral, Spartan approach. Cracks and screams were heard even outside the hall, and the adventurers couldn't help but get curious about it. Afterwards, Broad asked Lucille to try and land a hit on him, no matter the means. Lucille tried to kick him, but Broad was surprised at how weak he was. So Lucille told him that it was the reason why he wanted to train under him. Broad apologized before asking Lucille if he was motivated. So Lucille answered that he wanted to get to the point where he could face adventurers without flinching. Broad was glad to hear his response, and then he asked Lucille to use his arms and legs and come at him with everything he had. Lucille tried to hit him with kicks and punches, but Broad gave him a slap because he was too slow. Then he told Lucille that he needed to learn how to move and try to clearly visualize how he would land an attack. Although he learned martial arts in gym class, he never got into a fist fight, so he was a complete amateur. He didn't give up. This time he observed Broad's movement more carefully while trying to get in range to strike. But Broad easily blocked his attack, putting him out of balance. While lying on the ground, Lucille realized how tough it was and wanted to give up. But he got up determined not to waste his chance on a fresh start. Then he swore that someday he would land a hit on Broad's face. Broad was impressed with his determination, but he reminded Lucille that the most important thing in battle is to avoid dying and getting injured. Then he added that Lucille had to learn how to move first. He also reminded Lucille not to use what he learned in battle immediately, as first he had to train it over and over until it became second nature. Because if he doesn't know what he's doing, it will come back to bite him instead. Then Broad told him to watch and learn, then try everything on him. Afterwards, they started the second round, and Broad only called it a day when Lucille couldn't get up anymore. Lucille thought of healing himself, but Broad stopped him while explaining that he needed to heal naturally in order to improve his physical recovery. He also added that he could only heal himself if he was actually hurt. Then Lucille asked why no one else came to the hall, so Broad explained that newcomers focused on the real battle since they didn't have much spare money for training. Hearing this, Lucille thought that adventurers had it tough, and he decided he'd rather save his heal for the adventurers than waste it on himself. Broad was surprised after hearing this, but he asked Lucille to heal anyone who needed it, regardless of their race. Lucille seemed puzzled, but he agreed without hesitation. At the same time, some adventurers arrived and asked Lucille if he would really heal them. They had doubts that it was a scam, but Lucille immediately healed the wolf bite on the adventurer's leg. The adventurer thanked Lucille, but they were more surprised that he actually healed her. Hearing this, Lucille thought that adventurers really don't trust the healers, but he set it aside and asked the adventurers if they were also injured. So the adventurers immediately pointed out their injuries. Seeing the tired Lucille, Broad mentioned that he would really be busy as a healer, so Lucille said that he would do his best before asking if 8 heals in a row would be enough since it is his limit for now. Broad told him it was plenty before suggesting that he use his heal until he almost ran out of magic to build up his strength. Lucille thought that it was similar to his former lifestyle, where he almost worked non-stop, but he still agreed, as he thought that trusting Broad was best for his future. Then he thought that he would be killing multiple birds with one stone, since his martial arts will keep improving because of his training. His holy affinity will build by healing people, and his magic and physical recovery will increase if he meditates in between. Afterwards, Broad told him to stay in the guild if he was serious about his training. However, Lucille mentioned that he didn't have much money, but Broad offered him free accommodation in the guild as well as free meals. Lucille thought it was too good to be true. Broad explained that he just wanted to increase the survival rate of the inexperienced adventurers, and it's possible if Lucille is at the guild. Since Lucille also wants to save as many lives as he can, he agreed to Broad's offer. After hearing this, Broad thought the world would be a better place if there were more healers like Lucille. Lucille thought Broad was overestimating him, but he was satisfied with how the start of his second life in this new world was going. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and look forward to the next part.